Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining me at 10 a.m. on Wednesday for this live Facebook video. We're going to be talking about grief and politics today, so if at any time the spirit moves you, jump in below and leave a little comment. My opening question to everybody is where do you see grief outside of yourself in the world today, whether that's in politics, which we'll be talking about, or in violence, or internationally, or anything else like that. So we'll get going on kind of my little talk for today, and then if you have any comments about grief in the world as you see it, just leave them below. So as a grief recovery specialist and somebody who's been energetically attuned, I have a tendency to kind of see grief everywhere. Of course, when I introduce myself to people and they ask what I do, I get their personal stories, but it's really, really easy to see grief on a national or an international scale. So if you can think of any examples, again, please leave them below as we're scrolling, and I'll read them out on the podcast or on the live video, and we can talk about them as well. So I'll be the first to tell you that the revelation that grief is everywhere is not mine. It was actually presented to me at my grief recovery specialist training in St. Charles, Illinois, by my leader, and we were actually talking about the presidential nominee debates, which had gone on either the night before or a couple nights before, and talking about the different candidates and things like that. And she pointed out that Trump specifically as a candidate is gaining popularity because he's speaking the words that people need to hear, in the sense that America can be made great again. So Trump supporters are people who are grieving a major upheaval and a major destruction of the American dream. And it doesn't seem to exist anymore in America, or if it does, it's totally changed from what they thought it would be. And that change in that, in like a normal pattern or an expected pattern of behavior is something that can cause grief in anybody, whether it's an idea like the American dream or it's an actual person who dies in your life. So the more I stepped back and the more I looked at what she said, I saw grief on both sides of the aisle and on all sides of the political sphere. Trump is more or less promising to heal all the broken hearts and broken dreams for people, to restore America to its nostalgic glory days. And Clinton, our Democratic nominee for president, is more or less promising to save America from impending grief with Trump, to continue to build on the Obama legacy, which would prevent us from having to grieve the loss of President Obama, and the right wings, and right the wrongs or griefs of minority groups in this country, of women, of black people, of Muslims, or other people who have suffered in America who are looking to be heard. So that's what I have for both of those, now that we've narrowed it down to two presidential candidates on the Democratic and Republican sides. And I don't want this Wednesday live broadcast to turn into a political debate of who is better or worse for the country. What I really want to do today is invite you to step back from your own viewpoint and witness where grief is really present in your life. This can be in your home or in your neighborhood, in your city, in your state, so on and so forth, kind of in circles, kind of radiating out from you. So many of the things that I've witnessed this week, there's been shootings in Charlotte and Seattle. There were 2 children who died in Indiana. A bike crash in Chicago, the loss of a Miami Marlins player in a boating accident, rappers settling lawsuits, Brad and Angelina are getting divorced, and just this morning another shooting in California. And the point I want to make today is that grief is everywhere. Grief is literally everywhere. People are grieving loss, people are grieving death, people are grieving change, the people are grieving homes being gone, identities being lost, losing careers, losing health, everything like that. Those are all grief events. Anytime there is a change or shift in our lives, and anytime we lose someone or they're removed from our primary circle of friends and family, anytime things were different than they were before, grief is present. And I think this whole election process is missing a major opportunity to allow people to grieve, not with angry insults or digging up the past or throwing punches, but with a conscious choice of calm and introspection, of letting people be able to say things are different than they were before, and that's sad or infuriating or disappointing or regrettable or exciting or whatever, but we're not going back. there seems to be a belief, especially in the political sphere, that if we elect the right person, or if we cast our vote the right way for one side or the other, that we can make our country what it used to be, or we can make our lives what they used to be. But we cannot move forward until we recognize and accept that we can't go back. We can't live in the past. We can't right all of the wrongs that have ever been done to us. We can't change what's happened, which is one of the hardest things to accept as humans walking around on the planet. But we can accept that we can't go back and we can go forward. That is the thing that we can accept as people. But of course, that's easier said than done, right? So the challenge I want to give you all this week during this Wednesday live video is to see and recognize grief around you. It doesn't have to be your own struggle. Actually, for this exercise, it works better if it's outside of yourself. When you recognize that literally everyone in the world is a griever or will be a griever, everyone in the world has lost or will lose something. You see the heat of the election, of protests, of legal battles in a totally different light. And it doesn't necessarily make anything better. I know a lot of people say don't dwell on the negative. But if you recognize that everyone around you is literally experiencing grief right now in this moment, it makes you, it's a much more compassionate and much more human way to recognize that everyone around you is working on their own losses on small and on large scales. No one is inherently evil. Everyone is hurting. And that's kind of what I want to leave you with. Politicians promise us relief by promising relief from pain or from suffering or grief. So you can see past that by recognizing and knowing that regardless of who you vote for this year, grief is present and will continue to be present. No one person or party can fix our grief just by taking office, and no one can save us from grief, from our own grief, except for ourselves. And we reach out for help and for healing when we're ready. And there are people like myself as a grief recovery specialist, the entire network of grief recovery specialists in the area. There are people who are healers, who are listeners, who are friends, who are adopted family, or even actually related family to us that can help us through our grief and through our struggles by connecting. So if you're ready to release some of the grief that you've been carrying, I've got an 8-week grief recovery method class coming up in a couple days on October 3rd. That's an 8-week grief recovery method class. It'll run from October 3rd, which is a Monday night, from 7 to 9, all the way to November 21st. Again, all the classes will be 7 to 9 every night. And then November 21st is right before Thanksgiving, so I'm getting everybody kind of out the door before the holidays start, which I know is important to a lot of people. So you can find out more about the class. There's another video over there. There's a live video of me talking about the class and the program and kind of everything you'll get as a result of paying the money and showing up. You can find that over on my website, which is shelbyforsythia.com. If you're looking for more discussions and more exercises about grief and identifying grief in your everyday life, you can join me Friday in Lincoln Park. This is another live event. There's a place called Next Door on Diversity Parkway, and I lead something once a month around the end of every month called a grief chat. And this is a free event where we all kind of hang out together, and we have some discussion questions that will lead us through. The one that we're doing this Friday is called Speaking to Dead People. And that's all about the communications that we have with our loved ones after they die. So a lot of people see spiritual symbols like birds or hear music or things like that, or a lot of people will continue to use things like Facebook or text messaging, a phone that's been deactivated, or keeping a journal so they can continue to communicate with the people that they've lost. So that's going to be this Friday, which is September 30th, from 6 to 7 p.m. at the Next Door Cafe on Diversity Parkway in Lincoln Park. And you can find out more about that over on meetup.com. You can find the little group that we have there called Windy City Grief Growers. If you're not in Chicago and you're not able to come to this meeting physically, you can join the Windy City Grief Growers, which is my private Facebook group, and you can kind of chat with some other people who have also lost things in their lives and get some cool resources. There's articles, there's podcasts, there's all kinds of stuff hanging out over at Windy City Grief Growers. I feel like I've got a comment. Oh, I see. Hey, Shelby, can't get the audio to play. There might be a little mute button on your screen, and you should just be able to click on it while I'm doing the live broadcast. Testing 1 2 3 1 2 3. I'm getting ready to sign off anyway. That's the end of what I have for you, just to notice grief in your everyday life and in especially in the political sphere right now as debates and things are happening, but to notice that everyone and everywhere you are is going through a grief event. And that kind of brings a lens of compassion and a lens of humanity into the decisions that we make and the way in which we talk to people. So thank you as always for listening and participating with me on this live broadcast, Wednesdays at 10. You'll be able to find me in this chair next Wednesday at 10 o'clock, and that's Central Standard Time or Central Daylight Time. I'm not sure which one we're on right now, but it's Central Time. I live in Chicago, so we're on Central Time, 10 a.m. I'll see you next week. Thanks so much for joining me, guys.